277. I am a concerned parent who has gone through an emotional journey regarding vaccines. We've been told this law is necessary to control future outbreaks in schools, and there was no outbreaks in schools because of the Disneyland hysteria. I'm not here today trying to end a vaccination program. Our overall goal is to retain our right to informed consent. We had AB 2109, which was totally effective. I think it was a very mutual, beneficial law. Vaccination rates went up because of AB 2109. SB 277 was excessive. Our children belong to us, and we entrust them to schools every day, and our beliefs and opinions should not be challenged by government. Doctors and parents are better qualified than politicians to decide medical treatments for our kids. There is a very fine line when you start eliminating parental rights. I feel it's our duty and yours as the board to ensure that all children are entitled to an equal education. California has never restricted the right to a public or private education ever. So what does this law mean? It means that certain kids will be discriminated against because possibly they choose an alternative schedule or a delayed schedule like I do. I think it's been a wake-up call for so many people, regardless of where they sit on the vaccine debate, only because of the parental rights issues. When do our bodies cease to belong to us? And if we start giving away those rights, I think that it's a very slippery slope. So what we've done is we've reached out to several districts, and I'm not sure if you're aware, but the Fullerton district has agreed to put out a resolution to push back the PBE filing date from December 31st to the implementation date of July 1st. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to have that date differ. In my case, by doing that, it would allow my 4-year-old into kindergarten next year because my 7-year-old is now grandfathered in. So I would have one kid homeschooled and one kid in school. It doesn't make a lot of sense for me financially. Emotionally, I don't think I'm a proper candidate to start teaching my child. I don't know if they would have me anyway. So they've agreed to do that, and the Orange County Board of Education now has it on agenda for tomorrow to request the same thing. We don't feel that that's unreasonable, and it would allow many children that have siblings follow in and be grandfathered in also. So I think that's really important for families, and it gives everyone a chance to work out this law. There are so many gray areas. Right now, the Orange County Board of Education had put out a memo from their legal department stating that they were going to court order children with IEPs to be vaccinated, and that's simply not true. IEP children are protected from that. And so there's a lot of misinformation, and which is why they have agreed to do this. So I'm here today asking if you would also put in a resolution, maybe an action item on agenda to do the same thing. We're not here to end the vaccination program. However, I do believe that it's important for families that have, siblings in their homes to be able to work something out. And because the districts have not notified parents about this law, they haven't been notified. The state didn't notify the counties didn't notify the districts. We're at the 11th hour, and there's so many families right now who have not been notified. And the consensus is that people that have PBEs on file have them on file, and there's nothing to know. But if I didn't know this, I would not have put a PBE in for my younger child. So there is some gray areas that need to be worked on, and I think it's important that the information get out accurately so that districts know how to implement this law and how to guide their families through it. I think, everyone should work together on this, so that's what I'm here for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Heron. And now, Ms. Stockstill.
Good evening, board members. Thank you so much for having us. My name is Julie Stockstill, and I am also a concerned parent about SB 277. This year, I worked tirelessly to try to collect enough signatures to stall this law. And there are hundreds and hundreds of parents in your district that had signed my petition. I was one of the area coordinators for Placentia and Yorba Linda. And I'll tell you, we are not alone when we say that we feel violated with our parental rights not to be able to make these important medical decisions for our children. For me, I have a kindergartner and then I have a 1-year-old. I do some vaccines. I do not do all of them. I don't know if many of you have seen the CDC schedule for vaccines, but it is astronomical. The amount of vaccines I received as a child and the amount of vaccines that they recommend to our little ones now is atrocious. For example, hepatitis B is on the mandate with SB 277 for kindergarten entry, yet my child doesn't have hepatitis B, so he would be banned from attending, but those with hepatitis B would indeed be welcomed. There's just, something wrong with that. Hepatitis B is only contracted through blood, so it would be, sex or perhaps drugs, needles, and I don't think that there's going to be a concern in kindergarten with that. That just gives you one example of one of the vaccines that I would like to give my child at 12 years old or 13 years old when I think it could be most beneficial, given that that vaccine is only good for 7 years. So these decisions are not taken lightly by many of us. We're not, following A-list celebrities with these decisions that we make. And, our purpose today is definitely to start the conversation. We want to, again, like Lisa said, work together. Many parents do not realize that they should have gotten a personal belief exemption on file, like this week. With the Christmas break coming up, they would have to get it in by Friday. That just does not give enough time. I am unaware if perhaps you sent an email or a telemessage. Fullerton District did both. They actually sent a telemessage to every single parent and also followed up with an email. They also had the directions and the personal belief exemption on their website for easy access, and they really did as much as they could, and that was really appreciated. We've been trying to get here prior to tonight. I realize that this is your last meeting for the school year or for the calendar year, but hopefully, we would be able to, like Lisa said, encourage you to, find some resolution to push back that filing date as well, so that way parents can, have that right to have it on file. Just to let you know how that works, these personal belief exemptions will remain valid for the grade span, and the grade span is basically transitional kindergarten and kindergarten through 6th grade. The next checkpoint is basically 7th grade through 12th grade. So with my transitional kindergartner, he'll be good through 6th grade. So hopefully, we can work together on that, and I'm just really appreciative of your listening ear and opening that up to hopefully, find some middle ground. I mean, I know that you didn't, write the law, you didn't, put the law into place, but you are on the front lines making these important decisions for our children, and we really are looking to you to, perhaps not, enforce the law maybe as strict as you possibly can, but maybe find those gray areas where we can have some middle ground. Personal belief exemptions have been in place for 50 years. I mean, we've always had personal belief exemptions. What happened that made all these children that have some missing vaccines, 100% missing vaccines, 100% unvaccinated, a threat? If you accept the, concept of herd immunity, we're more than covered in Orange County. We have a vaccination rate of 95%. So there needs to be attention to this. I think that, like Lisa said, there has to be some resistance, or we're gonna all find, and especially you in the district, you'll be next. You're gonna be mandated to, be forced to take vaccines that maybe you might not want to just because you work in the district. It's not gonna end unless they have some resistance from us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stockstill. Mr. Embryonic,
I could go last. If you could let the
Okay.
other two, I would appreciate that.
then Ms. Canestrell?
Hello, thank you for having us. We're a group of extremely concerned parents who have gone through an intellectual and very emotional journey with the passing of SB 277. Mass vaccination has eliminated most natural immunity with disease in early childhood, and fewer opportunities to develop immune systems that help resolve acute inflammatory response, which coincidentally started in the 80s. Government health officials, pediatricians, and vaccine manufacturers cannot answer why. It is that highly vaccinated children are more and more sick every year. There are hundreds of vaccines being developed almost in a race to eliminate all natural experience with infection. Pediatricians rarely mention vaccine reactions and are writing off vaccine injury as an acceptable loss. And that's just not acceptable as a concerned parent. The truth is, because of genetic differences and biological factors, there is a possibility of immune damage, brain inflammation in some children. The politics of vaccinations affect vaccine safety and policies. The vast majority of people who vaccinate don't ask any questions. So like when my oldest child, who's almost 30, when I took her for her first visit, I was never offered a vaccine insert or any information. They said it was safe, so I just went along with it. You know, that has since changed. This is a society, California, who was first on board with natural health, organic food, and yet so corrupted by big pharma. California is in the pocket of big pharma, thus the mass push for mandatory vaccines. This will continue throughout all the states unless parents like us stand up and say enough is enough, rather than accepting this new era of over-vaccinated kids that is overwhelming their immune systems, as parents and doctors are accepting this as a new normal. Parents need to do research about the ingredients in these vaccines stated on the package inserts. It's damaging to their DNA. They are full of adjuvants, mercury, bovine formaldehyde, MSG, aborted fetal lung tissue, and the list goes on and on. There is a pattern of adverse reaction, and it needs to be looked at. If we stay this course, we will be free of infectious disease and crippled by a growing epidemic of chronic disease. We have to protect our future generations. Parents need to become informed and be familiar with the legal requirements for vaccination now. They need to ask questions, ask for an exam prior to vaccination. A doctor should take into consideration the detailed family medical history. Right now, there's no exemption for, you know, my older child had an issue. My younger ones should be able to be medically exempt, but that's not the case. They need to look at the timing of vaccination, inform themselves on which are mandated for school entry or simply on the CDC schedule. Check the vials and expiration date and ask for unopened vials. Ask for single dose vials and ask for vaccination record lot numbers and the name of providers. We need to educate the masses so they aren't fooled into thinking vaccines are a one-size-fits-all, nor that the science is clear. Vaccine carries a risk and there must be a choice. We are pushing hard so that people will step forward and demand transparency. Demand that the CDC whistleblower be allowed to provide testimony about the MMR cover-up. We need to demand the parental right to make medical choices for our children, and we need to demand that the Department of Education and school boards back us, and we entrust our children to them daily. They are our children. They are our children. A day we should never be asked to sacrifice one child over a non-existent health crisis. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, Ms. Canestrell. The next commenter, Ms. Mortensen.
nervous when there's a lot of people looking at me, so anyways, I'm here to ask you to push back the implementation date and have notified parents to let the PBE get signed until the end of the year. I know you don't make the law, but you are going to be our biggest voices to help change things. Right now, with this new law, as it stands, so many kids are gonna be segregated against. And children that should not be homeschooled will be homeschooled. Or I don't know what will happen to them. I'll give you my own example. Like you heard before, vaccines are not perfectly safe. They're not safe for all children. They may be safe for some, but not all. When you read the insert, not just a little sheet that the doctor may hand you, the actual vaccine insert, there are a few things on there that affected my family. It says to use caution if your child has a history of seizures, febrile or regular seizure disorder, a family history or a personal history. My daughter had febrile seizures. Her first one was 10 minutes long where she stopped breathing. As I was running into the hospital, I was giving her CPR and she finally took her first breath. With that, I'm going to use extreme caution. I'm not going to give my kids Hep B that's given an hour after birth. When they don't need that, they're not going to be using drugs and they're not going to be having sex. But a child that actually has hepatitis B, not the vaccine, has hepatitis B, can go to school and nobody is allowed to know because they are protected. But my child won't be protected. My son and daughter absolutely love going to school. They go to school in Placentia. They have amazing teachers. When my son's sick, he tells me he doesn't want to miss school. I force him to stay home because if he's contagious, I don't want to get other kids sick. But even at conferences this year, and this is a very, very emotional thing for me, his teacher was saying how much he is involved in school. My kids are both very shy. My husband and I are very shy. But how much he's involved in school, he raises his hand at every discussion. He's always wanting to learn more. She goes through and she's trying to give him more there. He's learning basic division. She's walking by and giving him advanced division because he wants to learn more. To homeschool my kids and take them out of that setting, my kids that want to go to school every single day at the end of summer, are you ready to go to school? Yeah, I'm ready to go to school. I want to go to school. I could not imagine taking them out of school. Now I know, again, you did not make this law, and it's not, you're not the ones that are saying my kids have to leave school once they get to 7th grade, but you are our voices and you are the ones to make a difference. With this law, there is nothing in the law that has repercussions for not implementing it the way it says. The school boards can basically make their own decisions with this. So looking at this and seeing individual cases, there are some kids that will get discriminated against. I was so afraid in the beginning to let people know that my kids are not fully vaccinated. I don't want to give them Hep B. I don't want to give them chicken pox. With seizures, there's a much greater risk of me giving my kids these vaccines than getting something like chicken pox. It could give my kids brain damage. And with that, you cannot reverse. A simple illness, you can take care of them. You can take them to the doctors. We have amazing medical care now. And chickenpox, I mean, we all grew up with. And all these vaccines that they're asking to give our kids, probably every single one of us in this room is not up to date on that schedule. But we're asking to put this in every single kid's. We don't have rights over their own bodies before they go to school. So this is very emotional for me because I do not want my kids to leave school. They have an amazing education in this district and absolutely amazing teachers. So I'm just really asking you guys to make a difference for us, for our parents and for our children, because that's what you're here for. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mortensen. And finally, Mr. Indiana.
Good evening. My name is Joe Mariano. I'm a Fullerton resident and a Fullerton parent. I can't believe we're actually at the point where we're having this discussion. This law is a very tyrannical edict. It is totally unnecessary in my opinion. The Disneyland measles outbreak involved no school-aged children, and from what I understand, more than half of the people that were infected with the measles strain were vaccinated. And from my research, I've found that the MMR vaccine has not even been tested for the strain that was involved in the outbreak at Disneyland. One of the things that I think we need to realize here is that full parental disclosure has not been accomplished in any school district, not even my own in Fullerton, who I have a board member who has publicly stated his opposition to this law, vehemently opposing it. And yet, I don't see on their website that the school nurse can sign a PBE. I don't see on their website, I didn't see on their website up until November that the PBE actually even existed. I had for years enrolled my children in public schools and kind of played a cat and mouse game in enrollment time where I'd actually have to have the secretary go to the back office to get me the exemption form or let me realize that it was on the back of the blue or green card. Most people don't think that there's a way out of these things. And ladies and gentlemen, they've created a system here now where they want us to think there's no way out of this thing. This law has no teeth. There are no ramifications for not following this edict. There are no penalties for non-compliance except for maybe being audited with no financial penalties. I was in Sacramento on several occasions and I watched how our assembly and our Senate worked, and I watched the lobbyists in the ears of our elected representatives behind the dais. I watched how the ethics committee refused to hear anything I had to present them, including video evidence of all of this impropriety. And I'm here to tell you folks that this thing stinks to high heaven. This district is in a position where, as elected representatives representing your constituents, you are where the rubber meets the road, and if a law is unethical or borders on illegal or immoral, it is incumbent upon our elected representatives to say no to it. And I do believe, at the very least, what has been presented here tonight and what has been considered by the Fullerton School District, they are going to agendize having legal counsel write a letter to the state to determine the feasibility of pushing back the PBE deadline to be in alignment with the SB 277 effective date of July 1st. I think that's a very reasonable request. I would respectfully ask this district to do the same thing, because there's no reason to have forms turned in 6 months before a law starts. And I also believe that it's not proper to ask parents to catch their kids up when they don't even realize that, number one, they can sign a form and they can have the school nurse sign it. They don't have to book a physician appointment that's almost impossible to get with a couple weeks left in the year. I don't want to go into too much detail of my other research on what I believe is at work here, but I will tell you what I know for a fact and to be a fact, and that is if you look at every vaccine insert, Section 13 of these vaccine inserts clearly state that none of these vaccines have been tested for impairment of fertility. I will also tell you that the two checkpoints involved in this law are kindergarten and 7th grade. Kindergarten and 7th grade are where we require tetanus vaccination or immunization. Tetanus is a non-communicable disease that had an annual morbidity rate of about 500, as opposed to smallpox in the 20s and 30,000s in the 20th century. It's a non-communicable disease. I don't know what it's doing in the immunization battery, but I can tell you that what it was doing in the immunizations in Kenya and some of these other countries was involved in the sterilization program. Now you can look at me and you can think what you want, but these are facts. The Kenyan Catholic Bishops Association basically caught these people red-handed putting beta HCG in the tetanus shots. So I'm here to tell you that I am scared to death of what's happening. I think at the very least what we could do is have a rational approach to pushing the deadline back. I would like to see parents know that there's a way out of these things so they can do their homework. And if they want to make an educated decision on what's best for their children and what's in the best interest of public health, then they need some more time. Everybody's under the impression that this is non-optional behavior, that these are mandates, that there are no ways out of these mandates, when in fact nothing could be further from the truth. We also know that the educational system, the medical schools, and the media are basically run and controlled by the pharmaceutical industry. They write the curriculum. So there's a lot of conflicts involved here.
Thank you, Mr. Imbriano. That concludes our public comment section. And now it's time for our student board report. I'd like to introduce Ms. Emily Greenstein, our student board representative.
For Esperanza, there was a blood drive on Friday the 13th, and they're continuing classroom